In 1968, an earthquake cracked open a wall inside a mountain tunnel in Hokkaido, and the repair crew found people standing inside the concrete. Not bones on the floor, bodies upright, sealed into the wall itself, as if the mountain had been built around them while they were still standing. I know how that sounds, but it is documented, and it is far from the only railway in Japan with the dead folded into it. Because when a line here goes bad, people do not just stop using it. They seal the tunnel with concrete, a signal that turns green with no train coming, a bridge that rises from a lake once a year, then drowns, a tunnel measured to the exact length that reads, in Japanese, as the word for death. 13 abandoned railways. And after dark, the locals will not ride a single one. Number 13. Picture a heavy steel gate, and behind it a wall of poured concrete, filling the mouth of a tunnel from floor to ceiling. Somebody decided the only safe thing to do here was pour concrete into its throat and walk away. This is the old Inunaki tunnel in the mountains of Fukuoka on the southern island of Kyushu. It opened in 1975 as a road and rail pass. Then it earned its reputation. In 1988, a young factory worker was forced into a car driven up here and killed by a group of men. That part is not a legend. It went through the courts. 1988. A car climbs the mountain road. It stops at the black mouth of the tunnel. The doors open, and a man who started that night with an ordinary shift never comes home. Now, this tunnel has a second life online. There is a whole story about a hidden village past it, with its own laws where outsiders vanish, under a sign that says the Constitution of Japan does not apply here. That is internet folklore, and nobody can prove a word of it. The real reason this place is sealed is the crime that truly happened here, and that is worse because you can look it up. Now hold one idea in your head all night. How many bodies are actually inside the mountains this country drilled through? Keep counting. Up next is a station the sea erased in minutes. Number 12. A concrete platform in the open, grass where the rails used to be, no track leading to it. A station trains can never reach again because there is no line left to carry them. This is Shizugawa on the Kezunuma line, in Minami Sanriku on the northeast coast, until the 11th of March 2011. That afternoon, the largest earthquake in Japan's recorded history shook the coast, and behind it came the wave. In Minami Sanriku, the water did not just flood the streets, it rearranged the town, tearing the low district apart, station, track, and all, and when it pulled back, a huge share of this small town's people were gone. And here is what the people of this coast decided to do, and it tells you everything. Japan Railways looked at the ruined line and chose not to rebuild the rails at all. Instead, they paved the old rail bed, the exact path the trains once ran on, and put buses on it. So today a bus drives, quietly, along the ground where the train used to go, past where the station stood. They turned the corpse of the railway into a road, because a full rebuild along that coast was a promise nobody could make. If the idea of a whole railway being quietly erased and never brought back is the kind of hidden Japan you want more of, subscribe, because this is the only thing this channel digs into. The next one is older and quieter, and the thing people hear in it is a woman's voice. Number 11. A long tunnel of fitted stone, curving gently into the dark, every block cut and set by hand more than 100 years ago. This is the old Amagi tunnel on the Izu Peninsula southwest of Tokyo. Opened in 1905, the longest stone road tunnel in the country. Then in 1970 they bored a modern tunnel nearby, and the old passage was left to the damp and the moss. People who walk through it after dark say they hear a woman whispering, back in the tunnel, though there is never anyone there. Others talk about a wet handprint on the inside of the glass. No death here is documented the way the crime at the last stop is. This is a thing people say, not a thing anyone has proven. But sound behaves strangely inside a curved stone tube, so a drip at the far end can arrive as a voice at your shoulder. Whether or not she is real, the place is built to make you certain she is. After this, the counting turns to gas and fire and 4 billion liters of water. Number 10, iron rails running straight into the side of a mountain toward a black opening that leads down to a coal pit on the northern island of Hokkaido. This is the Horonai line, one of the first railways ever built in Japan, opened in 1880 to haul coal to the coast. For 100 years, the railway and the mine were one machine, and the whole town lived or died by it. Then, in November of 1975, the machine turned on the people running it. Deep underground, a build-up of gas ignited, and the explosion killed 13 miners in the dark. To put out the fire and smother any more gas, they flooded the mine. They pumped in 4 billion liters of water, enough to fill hundreds of Olympic pools, and drown the fire, the tunnels, and everything still down there, all at once. The men lost in that explosion were sealed underground, not by rock, but by a lake, poured in on purpose. The railway now runs, in pieces, past a pit that is part grave and part reservoir. How many are down there in the mountains this country dug? The one after this is the only entry on this list I have to handle with real care. Number 9, a single lane tunnel, narrow, low, and old, with a traffic signal at the entrance. You wait at the light. It turns green. You drive in. And a green light here is not always an invitation. This is the Kiyotaki tunnel, west of Kyoto. Before it was a road, it was a railway, cut for the old Adagoyama line, a railbed I will bring you back to later, and the tunnel is exactly 444 meters long. In Japanese, the number 4 is spoken almost the same as the word for death, so a passage measured to 4 reads, to a lot of people, as a corridor named after dying. I am going to talk about this one only through its history and its ghost stories. The tunnel was built by hand, in brutal conditions, and it carries a heavy reputation from those years. People say the signal at the mouth turns green when no train is there, as if the tunnel wants you to come in. People say a woman in white is seen inside, or in the mirror, and that if you catch her reflection, your luck turns. That is whispered at the entrance, not written in any record. But the length is real. The origin is real. The signal is real. Stand there at night. Watch a green light glow in a stone tube named by its own measurement after death, and you do not need a ghost to feel your skin move. Then comes the place where the war left its marks in the concrete and never washed them out. Number 8. A curved concrete building, half open to the sky, its roof long gone, standing around a great circle where locomotives were once spun to face a new direction. And in the walls, if you know where to look, there are holes. Bullet scars. This is the Bungo-Mori roundhouse in Oita on Kyushu. Built in 1934, it was the last roundhouse on the island, where steam engines were serviced through the night. It closed in 1971 when the steam age ended. This building survived a war and kept the receipt. In the final months of the Second World War, American aircraft strafed this depot from above, and the pockmarks those rounds tore into the concrete are still there today. A man working here on the wrong afternoon was standing inside a bullseye. Fire, a wave, a crime, bodies in the dark. I am about to do something different, so I want to warn you first. What comes next is not a horror story. it is almost a gentle one. Number 7. I need to stop and say this plainly, or the next few minutes will feel like a trick. Every entry so far has been about death, or gas, or a wave, or a sealed up crime. This one is not. It is quiet and strange and honestly a little beautiful, and it is the one place tonight where nobody died. I am putting it here on purpose. After everything you have heard, you have earned one held breath. Picture a row of stone arches, an old concrete bridge, rising slowly out of the surface of a lake, dripping, pale, like something surfacing to breathe. This is the Taoshubetsu Bridge, in Hokkaido, on the abandoned Shihoro railway line. When the line was rerouted and a dam turned the valley into a reservoir, this bridge was left standing in the water. And it does something no working bridge does. When the water in Lake Nukabira is low, in the cold months, the whole bridge rises into view, arch by arch. When the water fills back up in summer, it sinks again and disappears. People call it the Phantom Bridge because for half the year it simply is not there to see. And every time it rises, it is a little more broken than the last, the freezing and thawing prying it apart season by season. One winter, fairly soon, it will surface for the last time, crumble and never come back. There is just a bridge that drowns and returns, dying in public, once a year, in front of anyone who comes to watch. Alright. Breath over. Up next takes you back to a railbed I already promised you, and this time the mountain kept the whole line. Number 6. A concrete skeleton standing in a cedar forest, the clear shape of a station platform and its stairs, with trees growing up through the middle of it. This is what is left of the Adagoyama railway above Kyoto. A haikyo, the Japanese word for a place abandoned and swallowed by the land. And if the name is tugging at you, it should. Remember the tunnel a few stops back, the one measured out to death, the Kiyotaki tunnel. This is the same railway. This is the line that tunnel was cut for. The Adagoyama Railway ran up this mountain from 1929, carrying pilgrims toward the shrine at the top. It lasted barely 15 years. In 1944, in the middle of the Second World War, the country needed metal more than a mountain railway for pilgrims, so they tore the whole line up and melted the rails into the war effort. The train stopped. And what could not be carried away, the concrete station, the platform, the stairs, was abandoned where it stood and the forest moved in. So the same railway gives you two entries. A tunnel people swear is cursed, and up here, the ghost of the station it led to, torn down for scrap in a wall and left to the trees. One line, two graves, and neither ever carried a passenger again. The next one drops you deeper underground than any station in Japan, right under the deadliest mountain on earth. Number 5. You step off a train and you are not at a platform. You are at the bottom of a shaft, in a cold concrete chamber, and above you climbs a straight staircase of 486 steps, the only way out. To leave this station, you climb the height of a skyscraper. This is Doai Station in Gunma, and its lower platform sits around 70 meters underground, roughly 230 feet down, the deepest railway station in Japan. But the depth is not the frightening part. The frightening part is what is directly above your head while you climb. Doai sits at the foot of Mount Tanigawa, and Tanigawa holds a record no mountain wants. Since climbers began keeping count in the 1930s, more than 800 people have died on it, more than have died on Everest and the other giant Himalayan peaks combined. It is, by body count, the deadliest mountain on the planet, not because it is tall, but its weather turns without warning, its rock faces throw people off, and it sits close enough to a huge city that thousands come to test themselves on it. So this deep, strange station is the doorway to that mountain. Some climbers ride back down those steps at day's end, and some are still up there, in the counting. After this, you reach the place where the railway did not pass through the poison, it carried it. Number 4. A whole valley of bare, grey, dead hillsides, stripped to naked rock, with a rusted rail line threading through it like a scar that never healed. This is Ashio in Tochigi, north of Tokyo, the site of what many call Japan's first industrial disaster. The Ashio copper mine ran hard from the late 1800s, served by its own railway, hauling copper out and machinery in. But the mine did not just take copper out of the mountain, it poured poison into the river. Waste laced with heavy metals ran down into the Waterways River Valley and into the farmland of thousands downstream. Then, in 1896, a huge flood spread that poison across the whole floodplain at once. In the sickness and ruin that followed, hundreds of people died and entire villages were wrecked. One village downstream was eventually destroyed on purpose, to make a basin to hold the tainted water. The people were moved out and their homes were erased. And the mining town itself, up at the source, emptied when the copper was finished. And the railway that had been its lifeline went silent. So today you can walk a poisoned valley and follow a dead rail line through it, a line that carried the wealth out and in the same breath helped carry the poison down. The people downstream fought it in the courts for generations. The one after this is where a train went into a tunnel and the smoke did the rest. Number 3. A night express packed with sleeping passengers deep inside a mountain, and in one of the middle carriages, the dining car, a fire begins. The train is nowhere near either end. It is roughly 8 miles in, about 14 kilometers, with solid rock on every side. This is the Hokuriku tunnel in Fukui, and the night is the 6th of November, 1972. When the fire broke out, the crew did what the rules of that era told them to do. They stopped the train inside the tunnel to fight it. And that decision turned the tunnel into a trap. A long tunnel with a fire in it behaves like a chimney laid on its side. The smoke had nowhere to escape, so it filled the tunnel and poured through the stopped carriages in the dark. The 6th of November, the train halts in the rock. The lights fail. The smoke comes down the length of the train, carriage by carriage. 30 people died in that tunnel that night, not from the flames, but from the smoke, from the air itself turning poisonous around them in the dark. More than 700 others were injured. And it changed the country. Japan rewrote the rules, and the new one was the opposite of what killed these people. Never stop a burning train inside a tunnel again. Drive it out, always, and fight the fire in open air. 30 people paid for that rule with the worst kind of death, deep inside a mountain. Then comes the disaster that made Japan decide to drill under the sea itself. And it did not start on a train at all, it started on a ship. Number 2, before there was a tunnel, there was a ferry. For a long time, to cross between the main island and the northern island of Hokkaido, you took a train to the water, a ferry across the strait, then another train. The ferries carried the trains too, rolled right on board. It worked until the 26th of September, 1954. That night, a powerful typhoon was crossing the strait. The train ferry Toyamaru waited out the worst of it, then chose to sail, believing the storm had passed. It had not. Out in the open water, the full force of the typhoon caught the ferry, flooded her, and she capsized. Around 1,150 people drowned, in one of the worst maritime disasters ever. The 26th of September, the ship leaves the harbour, the storm closes back in, the water takes almost everyone aboard. And out of that horror came a decision that sounds like defiance thrown straight back at the sea. Japan resolved that people would never again cross that killing strait on the surface. they would go under it. They would drill a railway tunnel beneath the sea floor through the rock that had drowned all those people. The Seikan tunnel opened in 1988 as the longest undersea railway tunnel in the world, nearly 34 miles of it, about 54 kilometers buried under the strait. And building it cost its own lives. 34 workers died boring that tunnel through the wet rock under the sea, so the count grows again. Add the drowned ferry to the men lost in the rock beneath it, and this one crossing has a death toll most whole countries never see on a single route. Before I take you to the last one, do me one quick favor and tap that like button. I am just getting this channel off the ground, and on the videos that take this much digging, it honestly makes a real difference. Thank you, because the last one is where the counting stops being a question and becomes a wall you can touch. Number 1. A repair crew standing inside a cracked tunnel wall in 1968, staring at a human skeleton that is not lying down, upright inside the masonry, sealed into the wall itself, still on its feet after more than 50 years. This is the Jomon Tunnel in the mountains of Hokkaido, and it is the climax of everything I have told you tonight because it answers the question directly. The bodies in the mountain are real. Here you can see them. The tunnel was dug between 1912 and 1914 in a brutal era of railway building in Hokkaido. It was not built by paid crews. It was built largely by forced labor, convicts and indentured workers, driven into the mountains and worked past the edge of survival, fed badly and driven without rest. More than 100 are believed to have died building this one tunnel, many from beriberi, a disease of starvation, and from sheer abuse. When a worker collapsed and died, there was, going by the accounts from this place, not always a burial. There was only the wall that still needed building. Then, in 1968, an earthquake cracked the tunnel's lining, and the repair crews found the remains inside the structure, standing upright, worked into the very walls they had died building. And that discovery is the documented root of one of the darkest ideas in Japanese folklore, Hitobashira, the human pillar. The old belief that if you seal a person into the foundation of a great and dangerous structure, a bridge, a castle, a tunnel, the sacrifice will hold it up and keep it from falling. For centuries, that was told as a grim legend you assume never really happened. And then a wall in Hokkaido cracked open and showed people standing inside it. The forced labor and the deaths are documented history. Whether anyone was sealed in alive as a true human pillar is the legend, and I will not pretend the record proves that last step. But you can see why people stopped thinking of Hitobashira as only a story. And here is the part I will leave with you. The system that built this tunnel, the convict camps, the forced labor driven into the Hokkaido mountains, was not one tunnel's private horror. It built roads and mines and lines all across that northern island. You will hear about this exact system again from me if I ever get to the abandoned prisons, because that is where it truly lived. So the counting is done. All night I asked how many are inside the mountains this country drilled through. At Jomon Tunnel, for once, you do not have to guess. You can stand there and look them in the eye. One last thought before you go. A railway is the most hopeful thing a country can build. It is a promise that you can leave the place you were born, that the mountain between you and the world is not the end of your life. And to keep that promise, Japan pushed straight through everything in the way. Through mountains, under the sea, through poison valleys and rock that did not want to move. Every one of those lines is a place where the country decided that getting people from here to there was worth almost any price, and then paid it quietly in the dark, where the passengers would never have to look. You ride the promise, and you never once feel the cost holding it up underneath you. So here is the question I cannot answer, and I have tried. When you ride smoothly through a mountain, how much of what I saw tell me this? If you had to ride exactly one of these lines, alone, after dark, which one could you actually make yourself get on? And which one would you never board no matter what? Put it in the comments. I read every one. I will see you on the next line.